And welcome everybody to the Daily Space Weather. I'm your host Dan, aka smAsho. Today's episode's called Don't Make a Meteor into a Meteorite. And where have all the protons gone? Let's take a look at a major source of them. The most major one in the solar system, known as the Sun. Here's the 94 angstroms 48-hour SDO video about it. Small active region there in the south, small active region rising in the southeast. A couple more bright spots, no sunspots so far. Maybe by the end of the video we'll have one, and we are streaming live. So leave us a comment whether you viewed live or you viewed Memorex. We've got some custom Helio viewer movers today, as we are not slacking. So here is the magnetogram and the 171 angstroms view. And you can see those magnetic organizations down there. Cycle 25 plages, you could call them. Here's the 304 angstroms. And we don't see a lot of filamentary activity around the limbs right now. And we see the weakest solar wind we've seen in ages, possibly ever on the channel actually, as we saw a solar wind drop down to almost nothing. Density, you're talking about 1/10 of a proton per cubic centimeter. So you need 10 cubic centimeters to even find one proton. That's a diffuse solar wind right there. VTBZ is relatively uneventful. Phi angle is dancing around 180 here. Looks like a coronal hole. Fleeting magnetic connection situation happening here. And we've been seeing deep earthquakes striking. So just after a significant coronal mass ejection and coronal hole wind streams striking at the same time, we see an uptick in earthquakes and an extreme downtick in solar wind density. But the electrons have returned, so that's another interesting factor there, as there is much more than meets the eye to how the magnetosphere works. Current solar wind density up off of its lows to 0.2 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind speed still at 357 kilometers per second. Talk about diffuse. We still see a KP of 1 somehow, and I'm kind of surprised by that. The KP index, a global measurement of planetary geomagnetism at 1, not 0. So here's the magnetosphere. We're going to look at the velocity. We're going to look at the density and the pressure today. Since this is an extreme event, we see velocity in the magnetotail region here, which is right here if you're wondering. By the way, we're listening to Ronda alla Turca. Ronda alla Turca by Mozart. And there's the density. Talk about a low density environment, folks. High density here is shown in blue. Low density shown in white. The shields are as down as they get. And here's the pressure. And that is certainly the lowest pressure that we've ever covered on the channel. Keep in mind this is based on a lot of different variables here. One of the most important, of course, being the solar wind density. So we'll let this play through 4 hours worth just to show you what happens when you have that low of a density. Tiny little blip there as it rose up off of its lows. And I just want to take a moment to click on details here to explain how you can read up where this information comes from. Let me turn down his Symphony number 40 in G minor. It's another Mozart. It's Symphony number 40 in G minor, if you're wondering. If you ever want to read about this, look up Geospace Magnetosphere movies. Come down here, click on Details, click on Space Weather Modeling Framework. And that will show you links to all kinds of different information about how those models are derived. Let's look at cosmic rays as we haven't for a few days here. First, the Apatity Neutron Monitor. There's Apatity. A downtick over the past 30 days. Here's Barentsburg. pretty flat over the past 30 days there. Next we'll look at Athens, Greece, going much farther south. So showing a bit of a bigger range here, still quite flat on the past 30 days. And these are all pressure corrected, if you're wondering, as we need to correct for pressure. And here's Mexico City. Bit of a downtick over the past 30 days there. That reading's probably anomalous. And we are going to get to some transient X-ray outbursts. Here's the Oulu neutron monitor. Slight downtick over the past 30 days there. Here's DOMC Antarctica. Nothing to write home about there. DOMB Antarctica still not returning data. If you want to monitor them yourself, just look up Network of Cosmic Ray Stations, links to cosmic ray data. Next we're going to look at some transients here. First, the core of the galaxy, Sagittarius A star, the massive radio source, around which massive blue stars are orbiting at insane relativistic speeds right now. And we've actually seen a bunch of significant outbursts here from Sagittarius A star, which are within its normal range, but we see a dense series of outbursts right in that area. Not at super high density levels there. But lots of transients. Next we're going to look at the Vela pulsar, going off sort of to the right of the galaxy, where Cygnus would be at your left. Here's the Vela pulsar. And this is kind of in its normal range here. Vela pulsar, a very consistent X-ray source. Also, let's look at Crab, which is the fourth entry under Crab at the Neil Gorell Swift-Bat X-ray Observatory. There are the transients for Crab. We've actually seen some odd drop-offs here. Crab sort of shutting down and then turning back on. An interesting little feature there. As this here is not anomalous data, apparently. It looks like it's really been shutting down a bit. A bit of an oddity there. The Crab pulsar. Kind of strange. Next we'll look at Cygnus X1, going back to the left side of the galaxy. And Cygnus X1 is the first massive radio source believed to be a black hole by people like Carl Sagan and like Stephen Hawking. So this is at quite a high level of activity here. Cygnus X1, so check that out. Here's the zero line. It's at about 0.04, which, okay, that's in a normal range. My mistake, that's a normal range. And let's see what X3 has been doing. Massive X-ray binary, also known as the summer triangle star Deneb. And Deneb has come off of its quiescent state a second time in the past year, and it is at 0.03, so it's kind of right in its normal range. Nothing too exciting happening there. Let's pick one more. Let's pick a random object. How about, oh, actually, let's pick another Cygnus object. 3C405. Massive radio galaxy Cygnus A is the second strongest radio source in the entire sky after only the Sun. Here are its X-ray emissions, which, similar to Crab and Vela, tend to be very consistent. And it's in its normal range. X-ray emissions from radio galaxy Cygnus A, otherwise known as the catchy title of 3C405. If you want to follow it yourself, just head to the Neil Gorell Swift-Bat X-ray Observatory, and you can monitor transients yourself. Next, we're going to look at ground magnetic perturbations, where all of these would be purely magnetic and not solar induction induced. magnetic perturbations, and guess what? We don't see many. And there are some theories about this, like electron availability, and we're not going to get into it today because that's going to be saved for a cosmology video at a later time. Here are our custom HelioViewer movies, first looking at the solar polar north region. And we'll let that play through a second time there for you. Not a lot going on at the North Pole coronal hole region, no prominences or anything like that. Here's the South Solar Polar region, and that'll give you a view of a coronal hole, as well as a couple active regions there. A couple small prominences from the South Solar Polar Field region. Nothing too active going on though, especially with that incredibly low solar wind. And we've made it to another edition of the smAsho Stream Smashlights, where we talk about anything under the sun. We could talk about how COVID-19 is made in China. China. Is your immune system made in China? Is your respiratory health made in China? Are you unable to go, for you can? Are you unable to do that? Well, we're going to start sharing more and more tips on how to be able to do that. Congratulations on surviving Smasher Price My First Pandemic so far. By the way, your ancestors have survived much worse. And by the way, thanks to our patrons, the true source of funding for the content, making it more and more likely that we will not just shut down the channel and get rid of the videos entirely. Thanks to our patrons for increasing the probability that the videos will remain free and publicly visible. Please consider becoming a patron, as we've achieved about 2% of our goals for the year 2020 so far, so please increase the probability of those goals being completed. And we'll talk about our mission at a later time. We're also on Subscribestar. Please visit the other links below the video and support the channel in whatever way you are able. We're going to have Amazon affiliate links coming. We're only a week late on those, Smash staff. Don't worry, folks. We've got some products that we suggest you purchase. By the way, if you'd like to buy the t-shirt that says Smasher Price My First Pandemic and has the whole earth with a mask on it and has our website, smashomash.org, well, it's coming, but I got to show you all the prototype first. So you got to see me wearing it, and then once I'm wearing it, then perhaps you can be wearing it. So we're going to show you a larger image here in a moment when my test pattern comes through. So just bear with me. By the way, also, if you haven't watched the Joe Rogan Experience number 1508, featuring Peter Schiff, it's over 3 hours long, and it'll be the best 3 hours you spent, especially if you don't understand economics. I agree with about 97% of the stuff that Peter Schiff says. Again, we are streaming live to Twitch, if you weren't aware. It's twitch.tv/smashomash. And thanks to our latest follower over there, cheers. Please consider hosting our content on your own channel. And please take a moment to like and subscribe on YouTube and on BitChute if you haven't been over there yet. Thanks to our new subs at BitChute. Cheers. There's exclusive content on all the sites. And you may have to go back as we've been sort of a little bit too busy this summer. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the Solar Events Logger, because I know yesterday there were some relatively confused comments about it. We're showing an event from June 6, 2011. And the reason for that is because, here we go, here's one. All right, thank you, be stoic, cheers. So yeah, the reason that we showed that is to show that solar protons can reach the LASCO-SOHO, the SOHO-LASCO spacecraft in about a half an hour. So that's the point, is that cosmic rays come out of the sun, and it's significant. And without going deeper into that, let's see what's going on currently at the LASCO C3. Here's the current state of affairs, and you should be able to see the date stamps. Nothing too extravagant happening there. And again, if you are viewing live, feel free to leave us a comment. Let's talk about CNN, the Communist News Network, or perhaps the Climate Nonsense Network, the most busted name in news. Have you heard about masked camouflage federal authorities grabbing people and throwing them in vans in Portland, CIA style? I have. I'm not going to cover it any more than the fact that it's a story. We've got a new movie recommendation. So, here's one we recommend. I don't really usually... you won't find me recommending very many comedies like this, but we love David Spade and Lauren Lapkus. They're both hilarious. I mean, it's a great film. The Wrong Missy. Consistently funny through and through. You can quote me as saying that. I believe that one is on Netflix. Don't quote me on it. We may have rented it. But Lauren Lapkus, hilarious. And David Spade, a national treasure. By the way, if you don't watch us on Instagram, you may not see some stuff like this. I don't know. Did you? Is it? Oh my God! It's propaganda. Hey, check it out. I got a photo of a canopy, not a can of pee. Canopy. You won't hear me saying
yada yada yada
or
yada yada
on Instagram. Now, let's talk about space weather. One of the reasons space weather could affect you is because you don't want to be the bridge between a meteor and a meteorite. Let me just explain that. If a quarterback throws a football and it hits a referee, that referee is considered part of the field. If a meteorite hits you, you're the bridge between space and the meteorite. Now, these things can travel at speeds like 60, 70, 80,000 miles an hour, so you won't hear it coming, so you don't got to go worry about it. If you get hit by a meteorite, don't worry. It was your time. But the point is, life is inherently dangerous, and there's not a lot you can do to prevent yourself from being the bridge between Earth and space that turns a meteor into a
meteorite.
See what I'm saying? That right there is not going to be stopped by wearing masks or by locking down. Dogs and cats can get it. There's even some indication that salmon can get it, as China has indicated that a shipment of salmon tested positive for COVID. I don't know how that can be or what that really means. And frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. Because I am more than ready. In fact, I've probably already said, for you can... because I think I've already had it. Am I going to get an antibody test? No. Am I going to get tested for whether I have it now? No. Have I seen any symptoms? No. Do most people that get infected see symptoms? No. Let's talk about disinfectants. As I'm pretty sick of seeing people spray things, and I'm pretty sick of smelling messed up chemicals all over everything, and people just having random vats of liquid claiming that it's hand sanitizer when it's actually methanol, and all kinds of idiotically retarded, mentally handicapped, utterly stupid things being done on the regs. Yesterday we went to the bank drive-thru. Some guy sprayed everything with some chemicals and wiped it down before we accessed the equipment at the drive-thru. I asked the teller inside if she knows what chemicals are being sprayed, and guess what she said? Nope. So, most people are using disinfectants wrong. And first of all, if you're going to use any disinfectant, read the material safety data sheet. You know what material safety data sheets are? All right, let me just share some wisdom with you here. They're called MSDS. Material safety... What the heck? Wow. That's the first time I ever saw that. DuckDuckGo is down. So, MSDS. There you go, MSDS.com. You want material safety data sheets? Oh, how about I don't know, how about cardboard? Were you aware that cardboard is dangerous and has a material safety data sheet, folks? It's because it's made out of urea resin, and if you work in a warehouse, your likelihood of lung cancer is much higher. Were you aware that taking really, really hot showers correlates higher with lung cancer than smoking cigarettes? Anyway, the point is, read the MSDS, and if you're spraying chemicals in public areas, know what the chemicals are, and you should probably even have the MSDS handy, because some people, you could kill somebody, is the point. So I see this all the time out in industrial settings. I see people just walking around spraying stuff. I like isopropyl. High concentration isopropyl alcohol is quite good and quite unreactive. Don't get it all over your skin. None of these products are made to be on your skin in any way. So if the guy in the grocery store decides he's going to sanitize your Visa or whatever, ask him what the chemical is. And when he says he doesn't know, shake your head or say, you should find out, because what's up with that? You're just going to spray chemicals all over people's stuff and not even know what you're spraying. Don't be a COVIDiot. Use disinfectants correctly. It also takes time for them to set up, and you got to fully saturate surfaces. And so read the instructions on the label and understand what the chemicals are and the distinction between your you-know-what and a hole in the ground. Let's talk about no-knock warrants. One of the dumbest things I've ever heard of. So the Breonna Taylor case is one of the things in the news constantly. And it was all started with a no-knock warrant. So if you're not aware of this, utterly idiotic, one of the dumbest things I've ever heard of the government doing in my entire life is a no-knock warrant. It's when the police show up with a warrant, and instead of announcing their presence, they just break in and they don't say anything. And then they're surprised when they get shot in the thigh. And then SWAT teams show up and just saturate the house with bullets because reasons. And this is the kind of a situation that happens when the government does idiotic things. So, no-knock warrants, let me just reiterate, are one of the dumbest ideas in the history of American justice. And even the police that were involved in the no-knock warrant would have a lawsuit against their police department for allowing their police to initiate a no-knock warrant. It is one of the stupidest ideas. Okay, so anyway, this needs to go to all scales, and everybody responsible for this nonsense needs to be held accountable. Whether it's a statewide allowance for no-knock warrants, I have no idea where this happened or anything about the story, because I'm a little bit busy doing actual science all day. So in any case, no-knock warrants, they need to go, because they endanger you and the police, and they make zero sense. Why in the world would you kick in somebody's door without identifying yourself and expect them to think you're anything besides a home invader? Are you kidding me? What a joke. Have you seen the close-ups of the sun by the ESA and the solar orbiter? Do you know where to see Neowise? Stay up until it's dark out. Find the Big Dipper, which, by the way, these two things point at Polaris, the two stars at where the milk would spill out of the Big Dipper. You know, the milk would go like this. Those two stars point at Polaris. So just a few degrees to the west of Polaris, you should see Neowise in between the Big Dipper and the horizon just after sunset. And here ends another Smashlight section. Go out and check out Neowise. It's not going to be back for like 6,800 years. And we'll see you next time. And now it's time to vanish and get on with other things before we're old and gray. Not that there's anything wrong with that. 10.7 centimeter radio flux is at 68 solar flux units. And we've taken that data from spaceweather.com. Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard is broken again as the radio flux is no longer listed, so we've zoomed in on sunspot number, which you can see is no longer flatlined. So it's a grand old time. It's a high flying time. It's great for a sun that's turning back on. GOES X-ray flux is flatlined, and we don't see many X-rays coming out of that active region in the south. No sunspots, not a lot of X-rays. No big proton fluxes here, and we'll talk more about proton events at a later time. Here's the GOES magnetometer, and it's looking a little spiky here. We may be in the other current sheet. Why did the chicken cross the solar system? To get to the other current sheet, of course. And indeed, we are now in the South Pole current sheet. So this data 1 hour and 1 hour and 29 minutes old. And I'm back. I think I'm back. Am I back? Oh my God, we need technicians. Oh my God. So yeah, now we're in the South Pole current sheet. And let's see, what's it looking like? We're going to continue to see spikiness in the GOES magnetometer, and there could be a sunspot rising, most likely north of the equator. That's my forecast. And if you look at stereo A, you may see it. I'm not sure. We're not going to cover it today, as there's too many things to do. Here's a line of sight field plot. No big changes in the B field, which is the blue potential field force lines. Here's where stuff is in the solar system. There's where it'll be in a week, God willing. And here's where things are above my head. If you get up before dawn, you should see a great show up there. You can see Mercury, the Moon, Venus, Mars, Saturn, and Jupiter all at once. Electron flux is off its incredibly low levels, and my voice is reaching levels of shattered once again. And there you can see the highest levels of electron flux happened yesterday, and we haven't seen those high of levels for months. Still not reaching warning thresholds, so no worries about satellite charging hazards any more than normal, at least. And we see some electron anomalies here in the South Atlantic. And I'll show you what I mean after it plays through once. This is the total electron content. Total electron content, the entire air column from thermosphere on down. And here you see some anomalies here in the South Atlantic. Little high electron flux region there. Again, just north of the Antarctican coast. And we've seen that a few times in the past week or so. Here is here's the ionosphere, and it's quite anomalous here. Highly discharged on the entire southern portion, and a big charge disparity between night and day. Here's the latest image. At 9:15 Universal Time, we saw, looks like only 8 megahertz there. And we saw some more large earthquakes, over a 6 magnitude here. Let's go up the list. There's one on the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, which is a pretty rare spot for quakes. Here's one in western South America. It's a 4.5 magnitude at 265 kilometers depth. Here's a deep quake at Papua New Guinea, a 4.8 magnitude at 100 kilometers. Here's a significant quake at India, a 5.7, and I think that one might be a foreshock, and indeed it is. Small deep quake strikes mainland Alaska. Indonesia sees a deep quake, a 4.8 magnitude at 183 kilometers depth. So that could be protons causing earthquakes right there, folks. And there's an article just came out about it. I know everybody's losing their you-know-what over it. We're trying to take it in stride, as it was a sound theory to begin with that we've considered for the last couple of years. Mount Abico's erupting, and we're here at volcanodiscovery.com, a lovely website, volcanodiscovery.com. Flight level 10,000 at Abico. Semeru's exploding, flight level 14,000. Dacono's exploding, flight level 7,000. Popocatépetl's exploding, flight level 20,000. Fuego's exploding, flight level 16,000. Sangay exploding, flight level 20,000. Revenador exploding, flight level 15,000. And Sabancaya exploding. Volcanic ash cloud to 24,000 feet above sea level. Please do not attempt to fly a homemade rocket over the caldera. Homemade rockets tend to be a little on the dangerous side. And looking at the jet streams, there are the easterns. Here are the westerns. Please leave a comment in the smashamash.com/forum section about movie recommendations for your favorite western. Is it The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly? Is it Hang 'em High? Is Dirty Harry and Sudden Impact and Magnum Force, are those considered westerns? They do take place in California, and they do feature Clint Eastwood. Hey, check it out. The Michael Mann anticyclone has moved south toward northern Canada. We'll check on the Anderson-Cooper anticyclone now. Here's the Anderson-Cooper anticyclone, folks. And we're just inappropriately naming features in the atmosphere after climate hacks. Here's where things are now. We're going to advance this into the GFS forecast, looking at pressure zones and isobars on windy.com, who has a great mobile app as well, by the way. Windy.com, hit me up. We'll get you on the cycling jerseys perhaps next year. There's where we expect pressure cells to be at 12 noon tomorrow, my time, based on the GFS forecast. Here's where lightning's striking, and there is a heck of a lot of it. Again, around Lake Superior, as we cited in our show prep video. Yowzers. Hey, Houghton. Hey, Ironwood. Dag. Hey, Ashland, there's thunder rolling in. Major lightning strikes over the lake. If you've got a view of that area, perhaps from Thunder Bay, go out and look to your south. If you're in Duluth or Green Bay, look toward that storm. You may see sprites or green elves or other crazy stuff. That is some extreme lightning. Next, water vapor maps for Africa and Europe. Water vapor maps for my face. Water vapor maps for the Far East and for Oceania. It's looking like dry, clear skies over Townsville, Australia. Townsville, a ville named after a town. Next, water vapor maps for the Americas. And once again, you can see the Anderson-Cooper anticyclone out here, a counterclockwise northern hemisphere rotating high pressure area. Similar to the Great Red Spot, but not red and not great. And next we'll look at the U.S. water vapor map, and we're going to zoom in obviously on Lake Superior, since there's so much activity happening there and a massive pressure gradient. If you're flying south over any of these areas, expect some turbulence to say the least, as there are some incredible pressure gradients right there caused by that cold air from Canada. And you can see right in this area, this upper level low is moving over the top of this low level high, and that's causing a massive cascade, an aerial waterfall. And you can see how much rainfall is happening associated with that as the water vapor leaves the satellite's ability to see it, meaning it hit the ground. And here's the U.S. Doppler. And that's quite steadily moving east-southeast. We're going to actually zoom in on this for once, because this is a really significant line of storms here. And especially the northwestern corners of these, like here and here, could see some damaging wind and hail, etc. Lots of lightning. Batten down the hatches if you're on Lake Superior. And by the way, the reason the Great Lakes are so dangerous is because of storms exactly like this. They cause massive water pressure gradients, and they force the water to go through narrow inlets, which is why you get 30-foot tall waves in the Great Lakes. And it's why the Great Lakes Triangle is so much more dangerous than the Bermuda Triangle, statistically speaking. It's like it's like orders of magnitude more dangerous. Anyway, thanks, Smash Team. Please don't forget to share the videos on your social media. Tell your friends, tell your foes, tell your science pros, and your science noobs that I'm going to vanish without some more support, views, an inflow of cash as we make like 2 cents an hour. By the way, thanks for flying, American Smashways. Please keep your head and arms inside the Smash plane at all times. We've got some bonus features to show you 0 sunspots as far as I know. Last I checked. And there could be some ombre forming there. I don't see any for sure. I don't think we see sunspots. There's the current field environment. And those could form into sunspots, so those are the spots to keep an eye on throughout the day. When I say eye on, the pun's intentional. We'll close things out in 193 angstroms as we see coronal holes, and this gives us a good view of them. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Remember, stare at the sun, don't drink it. If you do, don't drive. No matter how much the government compels you to drink. Certainly don't drive. Put your feet up. Have a good time. And may those COVIDiots be absent from your multiverse.